Hello, everyone, and welcome back. I have a quick update on my Centurion Mk 5 build. I have a few thoughts on the kit. I suppose overall it's not a bad kit, but there are some issues. First issue is this plastic does not like Tamiya extra thin. So uh, it's very, just didn't want to seem to grab hold like it normally does. Normally, in that situation, I'd, you know, use some of this, but I'm out of it and I can't find any more to save my life. So I had to revert to my younger days and use some actual tube glue. Seemed to work a little bit better. So, so it's something to keep in mind when you pick up an amusing hobby kit. I don't know if all their plastic is like this, but something to look out for. Now, as far as the build's concerned, instructions are pretty straightforward. There are some issues I had. The way they have things put together, like here, I'll use these for an example. On the side of the hull, you have these slots that you have to kind of slide the nubs up into. There's no direct, really, holes. It wasn't so bad putting on the bogies, but these side skirt supports, was really nothing to hold them really square. They always had a tendency to go off to the left or the right. And a few of them, I wasn't paying attention, and I cut the nubs just a little too short. So I had to end up eyeballing them. But the bogies themselves went together rather nicely. I did have an issue with these control rods. I'll show you here. Once they were put into position, the bogies were glued in. Every time I flipped these things over, these things kept falling out. And if you wanted to keep the suspension workable, you couldn't glue them in. But I did end up gluing them in because I had another problem with the tracks. I got them taped up just to keep them up together, but as you can see, I picked it up and they have a tendency to come apart in sections. So I'm going to have to end up gluing them all together. So why bother with a workable suspension? Maybe some metal tracks might solve the problem, but extra cost, a lot of time. So there were a couple of fit issues. The biggest thing is this back plate. As you can see, there are some pretty sizable gaps. No matter how I put it in there, I mean, I couldn't even squeeze the tub together to close the gap. But there was another part here. It just pretty much dropped right in. There's a little bit of gap here. So that and a little bit of putty probably should fix that up. Another thing was the mounting points for the tow cables. If you glue this outside part on, fit the eyelets, then they have this piece here that goes in and holds everything in place. Well, they don't give you really enough of space to get everything in and get it buttoned up, which would make a real pain for painting. So I just went ahead and assembled the cables and just put everything in. There's still, and that one's kind of, but the darn thing's stuck. Oh well. And basically put them in here loose. I don't know how that's going to work out, if they're going to get in the way of messing up a paint job or not. So, and another thing, I had to put in some of the Pioneer tools. There's a lot of stuff stacked up on top of it. Other tools, as you can see, the tow cable is in the way. So I put kind of half of them in, and I'll finish up the putting on the tool. Yeah, easy for me to say. The tools after final painting. The other fit issue I had was this front piece here. It's one big glacis plate. I did not want to line up with the side fenders. I got them to meet up on the edges, which is important because the side skirts have to pretty much make a straight shot. But here on the inside, there's just a little bit of a step. And no matter how I tried to mount it up with the lower hull, I cannot get it to sit straight. I don't know if these fenders are warped or some other problem. And another thing is, like for this piece here and the mounting brackets for the spare tracks, there are no locator pin places. No lines, no pins. This piece actually did have some locator pins on it, but there are no corresponding holes on the front plate. I mean, there was no indication to drill through from the back side, so I just had to kind of eyeball it. Like I say, no other issues. I haven't put the axle in for the tension roller. 'Cause it's one of those deals where you have to kind of put the tracks on and kind of take the slack out with it. So we'll see how that works. So that's about it for the lower hull. The turret went together fairly well. At least these storage bins actually had some locator marks. And here again, the track mounts, there was some photo etch. There were no indications of exactly where to place it. Same for these on the bottom. I'm assuming these are like vents, but there was no indication as where to actually locate them. Still have to do a little bit of filling work here in the seam. I put the reel on. I was going to leave it off, but I figured it'd be easier to paint it and then put on some wire. I've left the hatches loose because if I can find the proper figures for a late 50s, early 60s tank crew, I'd like to use those. The gun went together. The manlet moves up and down. The biggest thing on the turret was the smoke dischargers. This part here went together fine, but these brackets, the top one is okay, but the bottom one on both sides broke. I managed to get them off the sprue, but when I tried to clean them up, they just snapped. I managed to get them back together for a passable job, but if I had to do it again, I'd probably just ditch the kit parts and fashion some new ones out of some either flat like photo etch or some wire. I'd like to actually figure out how to make a mantlet cover. I have seen some reference photos with the I guess it would be like a leather cover over the mantlet. So that's about it. I mean, decent kit, a few disappointments, but it is an interesting subject, and right at the moment there aren't too many Mark V's available in this price range. So maybe it's a case of whatever you pay for what you get for. So overall, for an advanced modeler, I'd recommend it. There are some things I would have liked to maybe scratch built. The exhaust system is a little odd compared to normal tank kits. So I finally got the paint to arrive. Going basically to use a bronze green, which was very popular during the 50s and 60s for the British armor. So, well, I'll cut it off there. I've gone on long enough. So, you guys, you take care. Have a great week, and we'll talk next time.